She's everywhere, all over your YouTube feed. And most disturbingly, this adorable red-haired doll seems to be popping up on every child's YouTube feed. But what in the world is Poppy Playtime? And what's really going on inside the terrifying halls of Playtime Company Toy Factory? Playtime Company Toy Factory used to be one of the most successful toy manufacturers in the world. Its lineup of toys included Mommy Longlegs, a spider-like stretchable toy released in 1991, Candy Cat, Brawn the Dinosaur, Boogie Bot the Rapping Robot, Huggy Wuggy, and the best-selling toy of Playtime Company and its official mascot, and his partner, Kissy Missy. However, one day Playtime Company suddenly shut its doors for good, with all its staff mysteriously vanishing. Then 10 years later, a surviving factory worker who was not around on the day the factory staff mysteriously vanished receives a letter from the missing staff begging him to return and help them all. But once our survivor enters the factory, they discover that something is seriously wrong. Not only is the place completely abandoned, but the toys seem to be coming to life. After acquiring a grab pack, which was meant to help employees work more efficiently, the survivor enters the main lobby of the factory and runs into the famous Huggy Wuggy, standing several feet taller than the survivor, adorning the lobby as Playtime Company's official mascot. The power is cut and the survivor must restore it before advancing. However, upon returning to the lobby, they discover that Huggy Wuggy is gone. The hulky blue-furred mascot seems to have come to life and immediately begins to torment the survivor who must flee for their life. Luring Huggy Wuggy out onto a catwalk though, the survivor uses the grab pack to pull down a large box which smashes into the catwalk and sends the blue-furred menace tumbling to the shadows below, apparently killing him. But do the toys stay dead? After this, the survivor encounters the infamous Poppy Playtime doll locked up in a case. Upon releasing her though, she comes to life and seems surprised that the survivor let her out of her display case. Poppy is grateful to be freed and promises to help the survivor escape the factory by giving them a code that will activate the factory's train. But before she can make good on her promise, a massively long appendage snakes around Poppy and drags her away. The survivor must now battle Mommy Longlegs, another of Playtime Company's toys that's come alive. But she won't take the survivor head-on, at least not yet. She promises to let the survivor escape if they can complete her 3 games without cheating, emphasis on no cheating. In return, Mommy Longlegs will give them the code for the train, but she warns that if they cheat, she will dismember them limb by limb. The survivor must solve a few puzzles to get to the actual games themselves. But once the way is clear to the game room, the first challenge you must complete is a game called Musical Memory, basically a version of Simon Says. The survivor needs to recreate the sequences presented to them. To add to the pressure, the entire time Bunzo Bunny, another animated toy, clangs his cymbals together as he descends from a long shaft in the ceiling above the survivor. Taking too long means Bunzo Bunny drops down onto the survivor and smashes them to bits with their cymbals. Now it's time for Whack-A-Wuggy, a twisted and much more dangerous version of Whack-A-Mole. In this version, miniature Wuggies crawl out of pipes placed throughout the room. But when they had children play this game, the Wuggies were on leashes so they could be yanked back before actually reaching the terrified child. But now Mommy Longlegs has cut all the Wuggies' strings, and they're free to attack the survivor unless he whacks them backward with the grab pack. But wait, what was that about those living toys being used to torment children? Well, that's all part of the suspicious origins of the living toys, but we'll dive into that later. Next is a game of green light, red light, or stop and go. The rules are simple. The survivor must get to the other side of a large arena, but can only move while the lights are off and music plays. Sounds easy, right? Well, it would be if it weren't for a massive 50-foot pugapillar continuously searching for the survivor. This massive caterpillar-like creature moves slowly when the lights are off, but if the survivor breaks the rules and moves when the lights are on, he'll dash straight to the survivor and eat them. But Mommy Longlegs has rigged this game because the exit is blocked by rubble. To avoid being eaten, the survivor must cheat by exiting via an observation chamber and down a hole in the ground, which instantly sets Mommy Longlegs off in hot pursuit, infuriated by the survivor breaking the rules and cheating, something she does not tolerate. Escaping through the factory, the survivor manages to evade Mommy Longlegs until she's accidentally caught up in an industrial grinder and is horrifically crushed to death. Screaming that she doesn't want to be made a part of him, Mommy Longlegs dies and her broken body is scooped up by the large metal claw of some terrifying and unknown toy reaching out from under a partially open doorway. With Mommy Longlegs no longer pursuing him, the survivor can now escape via the train, only for Poppy to send the train in a new direction, saying that she can't let the survivor go just yet. We don't know what Poppy has in store for him because the train derails and comes to a stop next to a sign that reads Play Care. So what in the world is going on inside the halls of the Playtime Company factory? Scattered throughout the Playtime Company factory are posters encouraging their employees to adopt foster children from all over the world. These children were brought to work where Playtime generously offered free childcare services with a large daycare facility. What kid wouldn't want to go to daycare inside a toy factory? But Playtime wasn't doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They had ulterior motives. Somehow, the researchers at Playtime were figuring out how to bring toys to life. Unfortunately, they needed the souls of children to do so. These adopted children were put through rigorous tests to condition them to become perfect toys. During this time, they were under the guidance and care of Mommy Longlegs. Mommy loved her children and her job, but once the children disappeared and the factory shut down, she went crazy and turned into the homicidal maniac that nearly kills the survivor. How did the children get turned into toys? No one knows, yet. But as a future chapter of Poppy Playtime is released, we'll hopefully learn more. What is for sure, though, is that it's likely that Poppy Playtime is herself a human soul inside a doll. As in a secret VHS tape inside the factory, we discovered that a woman named Stella Graber was interviewed and then hired to work at the Playcare factory. Interestingly, in her interview, she mentions how much she misses being a child and playing with toys, and laments how human bodies just grow older and older. Also, she happens to sound exactly like Poppy Playtime. Coincidence, or has Stella received her wish and had her soul transferred into a doll so she could play with children forever? Huggy Wuggy's also been brought to life somehow, but the survivor's encounter with Huggy Wuggy gives a clue as to the nature of these toys, as does Mommy Longlegs' death. Upon falling to his apparent death, Huggy Wuggy can be seen smashing into a lower floor and leaving behind a smear of blood. Likewise, Mommy Longlegs leaves behind plenty of blood when she gets crushed to death. So, wait a minute. How can these be toys that were brought to life if they're bleeding? Could it be that these toys are actually genetically engineered creations, perhaps with the brains of victims put directly into their bodies? There's no way to know for sure, but what we do know is that poppies play a big role in creating these intelligent toys. And that might not be blood after all, but a reddish poppy mixture which is important for the creation of these living toys. Poppies are mentioned in various VHS tapes and notes found by the survivor throughout Playtime Company, and there's even mention of an experiment trying to resuscitate a dead rat using a poppy mixture. So the living toys may not actually be bleeding when injured, just leaking this precious poppy juice, which might be keeping them alive. Chapter 3 will hopefully answer these and many more questions about Poppy Playtime, but until then, there's one thing for sure. Whatever's going on inside Playtime Company is now affecting the real world. In the UK, police have issued warnings to parents over Fuzzy Wuzzy characters, which has exploded in popularity across social media. Young children are believed to be at risk from these videos, with some parents reporting that their children have had nightmares of the character. On the playground, children have invented games themed around Fuzzy Wuzzy, with one British school reporting that children invented a game where they would chase each other and then hug tightly, with the chaser whispering sinister things into the ear of the child being chased while hugging them tightly, in a bid to recreate the terror of Fuzzy Wuzzy's deadly embrace. The fact that Poppy Playtime's villains all look adorable like children's toys means that terrifying content meant for older audiences is slipping past filters and the watchful eyes of parents, and exposing young kids to very scary images and videos meant to thrill mature audiences. But as Poppy Playtime only grows in popularity, it's feared that its impact on young children will also grow. Toys of the main cast of the horror game are now widely available, and a movie is in development. But the most unsettling news is the report of Fuzzy Wuzzy challenges sprouting up in schoolyards around Britain and beyond. As we saw with the popular Slender Man fiction, impressionable children can do truly terrible things in the name of a silly fandom. In a now infamous incident from Waukesha, Wisconsin, two 12-year-old girls lured their friend into the forest and then stabbed her in an attempt to contact the fictional Slender Man. Incredibly, the victim survived 19 stab wounds, and the two girls were sentenced to 25 years to life and 40 years to life. The one was released after 7 years and placed under state supervision until she's 37. Are the Poppy Playtime toys even evil, though? There's speculation that perhaps the survivor is the real villain of the story. After all, it's strange that he's the only worker to escape whatever fate befell the rest of the factory. Perhaps the toys are just carrying out their revenge against someone who cursed them with their current existence. Perhaps just as big a mystery, though, is Experiment 1006. To date, we've only seen the terrifyingly long claw of this creature, but we do know that it was created in the 1960s after Poppy, and that it was meant to be a living toy. However, unlike the other toys who were eventually made safe for children, Experiment 1006 almost immediately rebelled and murdered an unknown number of scientists. His escape led to an emergency lockdown, and whatever Experiment 1006 is, it is very intelligent. One tape described this creature disassembling some electronics to create a laser which it used to blind a camera for 23 seconds. It used that time to escape and kill yet another employee. Experiment 1006 is clearly some unwanted byproduct of the toy creation process, but seems to be more than that at the same time. The other toys appear to be scared of it, and Mommy Longlegs even begs the survivor to set her free as she's being crushed to death, afraid that she will join him. Whatever Experiment 1006 is, it's clear that it's using the other toys to add to itself. Whether that's just body parts or even absorbing the souls of the people used to create the toys remains a mystery, but hopefully one we don't have to wait long to discover. Now go check out You vs. Freddy Fazbear, or click this other video instead.